Okay, my name's Zakashi, guys, and in this video here we're going to be doing another hot take video. If you want to participate in the next hot take video, definitely follow me on Twitter. I make a tweet saying I'm going to be doing a hot take video, and you just have to leave your reply underneath and I'll potentially review it for one of these in the future. In the most recent tweet I made, I wrote, drop a hot take and I will potentially use it for an upcoming video. You don't have to believe it. That's actually important because this is mainly just for a video. People feel like just because you write something down that you're completely backing that statement, and it isn't necessary to actually be that serious. I'll go first. The Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta one-shot meta is better than the Survivability 6 Lives meta. And then I show a picture of G4 and Turles. Now there's not much to say about this opinion, but ultimately I prefer fast-paced gameplay rather than teams just surviving and winning because they don't die. Having endurance, comeback, revival, indestructible, all these factors just to make the game go to 0 time accounts is pretty bogus. It's like a free cop-out for people that don't aggress, and that's not gameplay. Anyways, enough cooking. We've got a lot of hot takes in this video. Before we get into this though, I want to set a like goal. Let's shoot for 600 likes on this video. The last discussion type got over 500. I'm really appreciative of that, and I know you guys like this type of video, so show me you guys can easily pass that 600. Let's get into this. Before I actually get deep into this video, I wanted to show this one from Just B. He had to be trolling, but he said Super 17 meta was one of the best metas in recent memory. Oh my god, I replied to it immediately and I was like, this one is outrageous. I have to reply immediately. What? You know the DBL community was calling this guy a certain someone from 1940, bruh. I'm not even gonna say his name. But hey, I have a 14-star Super 17, so I know he was fun to use from my point of view. But to say it was the best meta, people hated this guy. Let's get into this now. Right, so we're starting off with a banger from BLZ. Probably made the thumbnail for this video. The assets he creates are perfect. Anyways, if we don't get Future for Festival this year, it's the worst celebration ever, and Legends will not recover from that fumble, I fear. So in these hot take videos, I usually do agreeable, disagreeable, or I'll just put neutral or something, so in between. I think this is heavily disagreeable. Especially with the recent trailer, the minute people saw MUI and the possibility of Beast Gohan, it not being Future is not a fumble. And to say they will never recover, you've already missed. But I know this was released before the trailer dropped, but goddamn, this is a big miss. This is very disagreeable off rip. I'm sorry BLZ had to do it to you, and I'm sure you agree right now seeing the MUI Beast speculation. Even just the MUI Goku on its own is enough, bruh. But of course, I digress. That's just my opinion. I think it's disagreeable though. I think most people will also disagree with this as well. We got one from Exodus Yami. LF Cooler releasing 2 weeks after Ultra Super Vegeta was low-key a good decision. I'm gonna say this is agreeable, but I could see why people would disagree. I'd say why people would disagree is because people want to use their shiny new Ultra. You don't drop an Ultra, which is almost impossible to get anyways. Ultras are difficult as hell to pull. And then you just counter them and make them basically useless like a month later or whatever it was. He said 2 weeks after. Boy, that's not nice, man. It wasn't 2 weeks after, I don't think, because I think Trunks released in between. But that is not nice. That is not nice. But I could say it's agreeable because if you didn't have Ultra Super Vegeta, or you're not just an Ultra fan in general, you don't care about fusions, you have the other side of it that immediately counters him and takes him out. Now, I don't feel like Ultra Super Vegeta was that broken for him to have been countered the way he was. But maybe he was, because he had insane draw speed, sustained damage up for the enemy, vanish back. Boy, and he can just strike all your blasts. And nullify endurance was common back then. But like, there wasn't any like, you know, many endurance units that were like top tier like him. So I could see both sides, but I'm going to say this is mostly agreeable. Because having an OP meta unit, they have to get out of here at some point. I think it's a lot worse when you consider other anniversary ultras like Ultra Vegeta Blue. They needed to get that guy out of there, and they were struggling. They didn't do it properly until really late. And then also we have G4 this year, them dropping Majin Buu Saga as a whole, you know, Turles, Triku movies, you know, that type of thing. They're doing a good job this year against G4 as well. So. But they got this guy out too easily. It took them just one unit. That's dark, man. He dropped another one, so I'm just going to read it out. They should have dropped Ultra Ultimate Gohan instead of UMV. I'm crying while writing these hot takes. I actually can agree with this because Ultimate Gohan, he doesn't have like a major finisher or anything like memorable like that I can think of. Ultra Majin Vegeta, he's mainly known for his final atonement, so if he was a Legends Limited in the anniversary, it would be more fitting for his final explosion. But we have a Majin Vegeta that already explodes with Awakening Arts, and we also have a LF Majin Vegeta that transforms. Maybe they could just make an LF with him just like that, you know, and it would be a lot more fitting. The Ultimate Gohan as an Ultra could be good, but if he's as cracked as Ultra Majin Vegeta, it would be worse. So, you know what? I'm still gonna say it's agreeable because the final atonement part, it doesn't fit on an Ultra. It would just be a crappy Ultimate Arts, you know. With Majin Vegeta, they obviously chose the version where he fights Goku, and at first I really thought that was a bad decision, but for an Ultra, it's more fitting because Ultra's not gonna boom themselves, are they? So overall, I don't mind how they released Ultra Majin Vegeta, but I could easily see why someone would think this, which is why I'm saying this is agreeable. This as an LF just makes a lot more sense in general. So I'm also thinking about how the character looks rather than what they do. We got a hot take from Sir Charles_X. Ultra Turles can 1v3 the next 3 best units outside of himself. Well, I'm gonna disagree straight away, because if we could just consider 3 units in general, right? Let's put G4 up there. G4 Last Stand can probably break through Turles if he's in a 1v3. If he has 2 lives, might be a different story though. Ultimate Gohan, if Turles has 2 lives still, he would still probably win. Ultimate Gohan is crazy. And then let's just put someone else that's a good free. Let's put Ultra Majin Vegeta right now, right? I don't know how I'm kind of thinking as like before the fact, so when Turles released. But let's put Ultra Majin Vegeta. Ultra Majin Vegeta can also smoke this guy because of the counter. So already I disagreed, right? But just using those 3, I'm not saying those 3 are specifically the best 3 next units, but those 3 in a 1v3 setting, Turles is not getting through them. And I think that shouldn't be a hot take, what I said. But I think this is a very hot take, but it's overall a disagreeable hot take, you know what I mean? We got a hot take from Damian Slurkey. Best design unit of 2024. The definition of balance. Legends Limited Super Baby 2, Super Gauge 2, Gaijaraga, Maharaga, the genius of adaptation, Isagi Oichi. Okay, this is an agreeable take. This guy here, he was shunned because he released right before the anniversary, and on top of that, he's a powerful opponent from GT. He's not exactly piquing people's interest. Super 17, he's got a little hype train behind him, and he revealed during the battle hour. So if you want to have the argument, well, Super 17's hype, Super Baby 2 should be too. It's not exactly the same, but people do rock with Super Baby 2. But in terms of what he does, it was mainly because he was released right before the anniversary that people didn't want to pay attention to him as much. His design is beautiful. Maybe if they gave him endurance, it would be that much better. He would still be top 5 to this day. I'm not gonna lie. The way his gauge works, every time his gauge fills, you are getting cooked. The blue card's coming your way, or he's gonna ult you and lock you in, which is what Ultra Majin Vegeta is being praised for right now. The fact that he can just take your vanish, drop your cards, key, it's beautiful. It's beautiful overall. This guy's kit, it's not too overwhelming. Maybe the endurance would make him unbalanced. But then the fact that he doesn't have it, he can get melted if you're using a red. But if you're not using a red, it's quite hard to break through him, especially a high star one. That gauge is going to keep spinning. And once that gauge fills, the wheel of adaptation spins. Ba-ding! Oh, it's over. He's going to come back with the firepower. And that's what I like about him, man. Overall, he didn't shine too much, so he's not too much in the spotlight. But if he did enter the spotlight, he's going to cook. Perfectly balanced. I think this is probably the best take we're going to have this video. I agree so much, and I think this is very agreeable. We got a hot take from Princess Iron. Omega will low-key out-age UG4. You can out-age damage, but you can't out-age utility as much. This is interesting, and I'm going to say it's neutral. I'm going to say it's neutral. I don't think it's agreeable. I don't think it's disagreeable. Because one thing that's important to note is that G4 isn't just a damage unit. The way this tweet or hot take comes out is as if all G4 does is high damage. His gauge is probably the most protected thing in the game. You have to break through his gauge multiple times or stop him from healing to easily take him out. And when the meta shifts, there might not be a unit that stops health restoration. And if they drop more fusion warriors, which they always will in hype periods, G4 will just come back. However, Omega Shenron, for multiple reasons, won't necessarily stay. You also have to consider Omega Shenron's damage will disappear, so all he will have is indestructible. So at that point, why would you use him? Are you just a GT user? There's like minimal reason, especially including popularity, for why people would use Omega. So utility is dope, you know, and I'm not trying to make it out like Omega just has indestructible, you know, but that's the main reason people use him. Let's call a spade a spade. G4 is being used because of damage, his counter even more so than his damage, high key. I'd say that's the two reasons. I'm not gonna go over than that, but that's enough to justify him to say that he won't be outaged by Omega. But just because Omega is doing better right now, that's fine. He released after. If anything, he should be. But we have to see what the future's offering to see if it will more cater to Omega than G4. And they work on the same team, so they kind of boost each other up. You know, I think this is a neutral one. I'm not going to say it's agreeable. I'm not going to say it's disagreeable. I think it can go either way easily. I think some people look at this like, what? G4's counter is just better than everything Omega offers. You can rise and rush G4, just for those guys that are arguing like that. But once everything else in Omega's kit falls off, it will literally just be indestructible. It's like Bardock and Goku. You can just, you know, nuke them, and then their second life, you know, is whatever. So I'm going to leave this as neutral. I'm not going to agree or disagree, but I can see arguments for either way. We got a hot take here from Razor Blide. Ultra Golden Frieza is one of the best releases of this year. Good damage, easy cover null, and card draw. Very good main team, powerful opponent. Comeback that does sizable damage and good animations for the source material he's based on. Agreeable. I don't know what you want me to say. This is the Ultra. Of course he's going to be one of the best releases this year. Unless you're going out like a couple others, Ultra Broly, Janemba after 1 month. You know, you're a good release. You know, as long as you're not going out like those guys, you're a good release. And Golden Frieza had a good in-car. Everyone's like, whoa, when he had the reveal, he was looking beautiful, you know? There's nothing bad about him. He does everything in a minimal way, and they gave him comeback, which is very, very, in my opinion, excessive. But it makes a lot of sense for him, you know? So overall, they touched his source material really well. It's an agreeable take. I don't need to go into more. I'll just be yapping. G4 is out of the top 10. I can name 10 units right now that would do better than G4 in this current meta. Disagreeable. Disagreeable, because there's so many characters G4 is better than. Just on a solo basis, this guy is still insane. On an individual basis, this guy is touching top 5 easily. And if you have top 5 individual bases, you might be able, you should be able to, sorry, easily touch a top 10 meta tier list as well. I'm not saying he's like top 5 in the meta. I think he's like 8, 9, maybe 7 at best. But to say he's out of the top 10, I think you're more of an agenda pusher than anything, you know. So it was a good attempt for a hot take, but it's a bit too hot, you know. A lot of people are definitely not ready for this, and that's because it's wrong. We got a take here from Seth Hacker. Ultra Margin Vegeta is not better than Turles. It's not a debate either. It's not close. He does the same damage as Turles. Even though Turles is a defense unit, Turles ult hits 100 times harder than MV. MV has better utility and disrupt, and he's definitely top 2. Okay, so let's start at the start. Ultra Margin Vegeta is not better than Ultra Turles. I think that most people disagree. I think most people disagree. If you look at the meta right now, hey, Margin Vegeta is everywhere. Explosive green, cancelable boss with his endurance, which is basically, you might as well just have comeback. You might as well, man, the same thing. You know, more potential to break combos, lock in ult. On the offensive end, Ultra Margin Vegeta, in terms of doing damage and long output, is better. Now, when it comes on the defensive end, Turles having comeback, I'd say it's as equivalent as just having the counter, because not being able to use blast darts in a PvP game, unless you're using a full melee team, which most teams are not nowadays, most people carry 1 strike, 1 blast, you're not going to have a 3 unit team that's going to have 2 strike cards on every single unit in this meta. It's very difficult to have that and actually have the team be good. So I'm going to, like, disagreeable. Is disagreeable for multiple reasons. However, in my tier list, because of teams, I spoke about in a sense where, depending on your playstyle, Ultra Turlers will get you places very easily. If you are a passive loser, right, who lives in the back of, like, I don't know, a shed, right, and it's not even your shed, just put the fries in the bag. But fair enough, because with that Turles playstyle, because you're a passive loser, you're gonna win games, but you're not winning games of damage, you're winning games of taking the timer counts to 0. But ultimately, you're winning games. Scummy or not, you're winning games. I can't hate I can't hate a method that works. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And because Ultra Turles can be so passive with his teammates and just survive and win off damage, I can respect it. Ultra Margin Vegeta is going to be more of a damage dealing type, but he can also take some traits from the tanky type, survivability type teams, because he also has the endurance buff cancellation. He's a good element. I don't think this is an agreeable take, especially the fact that you said it's not close. So if I just wanted to be like very specific, the fact that you said it's not close, you're dragging it OD. You dragging it OD. We got a hot take from J Despair 335524. There are no benefits to God rank equips, Z plus or godly. There are no differences, only for looks and perfectionists. Well, this isn't an opinionated thing, so even though it's put here as a hot take, it's just objectively wrong. Do you know how many games I've lost because I couldn't do like 400 extra damage? Even 5,000 extra damage that would have been something I would have had with an extra 10% out of an equipment that I didn't bother to get to godly or something like that. Ultimately, the fact that games can come down to the wire like that is proof that this is just objectively wrong. So disagreeable. But let me also add this. In a whole game, let's just say for example, right, the enemy has 1 million health, so I'm going to make it very easily visual, right? You divide that by 5, it's going to take you 200k for every strike cards, right? But let's say because of a certain equip, you're only doing 190k. So that means out of the 5 strike cards that you do to take out that enemy of 1 million health, just imagine combo compensation doesn't exist as well, you'll be lacking 10k. So you need a 6th card to kill that person just because of like a small 10% on one equip. And that's annoying. You know, that's not cool. That's not cool. You could have been doing a full 200k. You'd only need 5 to take out the 1 million health unit. But because you're lacking 10% on that equip, you're going to be losing 10k on every single strike. So you're doing 190 every single strike. And that would mean you need a 6th card. And in that 6th card to kill one unit that could have been Ultra Margin Vegeta, Turles, Ultimate Gohan, G4, somebody who's super annoying, they now get to live because they can cover change because of that 1 extra second it takes to do the extra strike cards. Now they've gained back that health, they've done a cycle, and now you're losing because you got Rising Rush. That happens so many times, but it's because every single card literally counts. So this is not for just looks and perfectionists. Of course it does look better, and mainly perfectionists go for it, but there's a genuine benefit to getting to godly, and it's because every percentage counts, every strike card counts. It's a build up throughout the whole game that makes the difference for you to win or lose. In most cases though, there will obviously be a blowout, like you won't even have 2 people dying and then the other person will lose all their units. We've got a hot take here from Whitey. The release of Ultra Margin Vegeta makes God Goku a genuine viable unit in the current meta, and that it wouldn't be a surprise to see the 2 run together with a 3rd unit like fusing Super Vegito, Turles, Ultimate Gohan, or even someone like Shin to round the team out. Right, so I'm gonna say this is... I think a lot of people want to write this off immediately and say it's disagreeable, but I think it's agreeable. Having the yellow option to protect the green is super good, you know. The only purples that are being used were Ultimate Gohan, mainly more in Proud in my opinion, but he's being used on Majin Buu Saga, and G4. People stopped using Golden Frieza. With G4 existing, having Ultra Margin Vegeta to directly counter him, G4 still being used because of course he has his counter and he can do good damage, but it's, let's be honest, it's a popularity contest on top of him being good. So G4 is going to be run consistently to counter Godku, but then UMV is protecting Godku. Godku also can do amazing ultimate damage. On this team, you've got 2 explosive greens, which is super cheesy. You can actually run him if you've invested in him, and I can see here YT has him 9 stars. So I could see why he would say this as to get good results. Under 9 stars, I think it would be disagreeable, but I think this is agreeable once you actually have the conversation. You know, it's mainly because of the teams you want to put him on. So this is a Saiyan team, and it would work because of that. I could see it working because of that. But again, it's mainly because of Godku stars and that he's protected by Ultra Margin Vegeta. So I could very much see it. And also him being green, it's a good way to get rid of Turles, who's actually being run a lot. So yeah, I can actually respect this team. Double endurance as well. So that's also a good factor. Easy counters here, endurance, buff cancellation. No buff cancellation, but you got endurance, and he decided to put Vegio on for the rush. So I could see this. I could see this easily. I could see this easily at being an agreeable take. I'm actually going to agree. I have no reason to glaze Godku, but actually processing it, it's not ridiculous, you know. But you see Godku and he's been memed so much, you just want to be like, oh, what the hell is this guy talking about? We have a hot take from Splash J23. Blue Beast was probably the worst release in Legends. Hear me out. Yes, the unit was hype and it was a good release hype-wise, no doubt one of the most hype units in Legends history. So this is not about the hype. But his kit was so broken, and he had so much broken gimmicks, he reset the meta and units that released. There's more. After had so many stupid gimmicks and started getting more broken counter gauges, comebacks, broken survivability gimmicks that are just brain dead gimmicks, and make units just even more broken and raising the ceiling way higher because of Beast. Beast really started all of this. And he killed like 95% of the game with his release. So you really needed him since every other unit before him was pretty useless. I'm going to have to disagree, but I'm not disagreeing because Blue Beast wasn't broken. First of all, Legends Limited Vegeta Blue was worse than this guy in his prime. Second of all, Legends Limited Namek Goku, you fool, was worse than Blue Beast in his prime. And also, I want to attribute, which was my main point, which is why this is disagreeable. Beast didn't do it on his own. He gets the credit. He's like the president, you know? He's like the president of the country. He gets the credit because he's the man in the spotlight, the main damage dealer. But let's not disregard Pan's supporting factor. Satan's greatest child. The girl consistently reducing your ki. Consistently reducing sub count for her own team. Before you know it, Blue Beast is like, okay then, guess it's my turn. That's the wrong Beast, but you know what I'm saying? You're just gonna get hit with a knee with his blue card. You don't really want that. It was because of Pan. Pan's great assist. Satan's greatest child. And let's not add Future Gohan to that mix because he had the endurance. When he cover changes against your blast, you can't do anything. You're stuck. He breaks your cards. He supports the team in addition, and he can have good 1v3 comeback potential back then. It was not just Beast on his own, which is why he wouldn't be the worst release in Legends. He did not solo, even though he could. His team was just so solid, it made it seem a lot worse than it actually was. Everybody was running Future Gohan, Pan, and Beast. However, with other broken units in history, it didn't matter who you ran them aside because they were just him. They were that, bruh. They will go do it themselves, on feet, by themselves. It didn't matter who you ran with Vegeta or Blue. He's cooking you by himself. It didn't matter who you ran with LL Namek Goku. He's gonna do it by himself. And when you have a unit that can do that by themselves, they're easily worse. But because of the team being so synergized, you know, I cannot agree with this statement. But I'm sure you guys get the point, you know. I kind of pushed it for the gimmicks and entertainment, but obviously what I'm saying makes a lot of sense. But yeah, he did reset the meta alongside with his team, but he's not the worst because he couldn't do it solo. But he was a solo unit, but the team helped a lot. Let's not act like it didn't. Spawning a green and blue out thin air with Pan. Go to hell. We've got a take from XDISST. UUY is the best counter to UMV. First of all, it's wrong for so many reasons. UUY is a range type. That means he's throwing out blast cards almost all the time. UMV says nah. Even if you snipe him with an ultimate arts UUY, right? UMV is cancelling those buffs. Nah. Fair enough, his main ability does nullify endurance, but that's not like countering UMV specifically. And fair enough, also he does have the dodge mechanic, but outside of that, he's pretty glass. So unless you're building the team around UUI, UUI is gonna stink. So overall, this is just wrong. And also, Ultra Gohan's definitely better than UUI right now. And that's not even saying Ultra Gohan's the best. It's just enough to say that Ultra Gohan is better than UUI. There's so many other options that you could use in the meta. Like, shout out Orange Jelly for saying Shin. I'm taking Shin over UUI right now. Just him being red. But also, Shin is a very good counter for, like, stopping cards being pressed and things like that. So, yeah. Disagreeable. We got a hot take from Honored Saiyan, not Icy Warrior. Hot take. I think Vegito right now is slightly better than UG4, and before the UG4 Glazers replied to me, nobody replied. That's a shame. UG4 right now is getting heavily countered by the whole meta and is able to be killed off quickly by UMV and Triku, and his ultimate isn't hitting the same anymore. You know what I noticed when people downplay UG4? Is that they never include how valuable his counter is. The fact that even though he's getting heavily countered, you still have to get around his counter because his counter is great. With that being said, this is an agreeable take. You thought I was going to say disagreeable. Nuh-uh. I just wanted to prop G4 because people always ignore that. It's weird. Like, you can do no damage, but if you have average defenses and you heal, obviously there's counters for him healing. But if you're going to be able to heal in a lot of cases and you can just counter people with that disgusting gauge, it doesn't matter if you can do damage or not. You can extend the combo, start the combo, explosive greens. There's a lot of benefits to using G4, you know. But yeah, obviously, he's being pressed so hard. I even said in my tier list, it's not unreasonable to have fusing Super Vegito over G4. I don't think it's ridiculous at all. I think this is a very agreeable take. I don't think there's much more to say. It's just the simple fact that UG4 is getting pressed. Fusing Super Vegito stonks. You know, Rising Rushes is valuable, and the fact that it's free, hey man, give me those. We got a hot take here from Petridum Astra. Despite all the units that have come out to counter him, UG4 is still performing incredibly well and is most likely will most likely outlive most of the units that came out in this meta. I can agree with this take. I'm gonna say this is agreeable. I was saying this when people are running Ultra Turlers, yeah, and I have usage tier lists outside of, not tier list, usage list that the dev release every single PvP season as an attribute to this. Obviously, I do understand that list can also just be a popularity contest because we don't know why people use characters, we just know they're being used. But if they're BR70 and above, the natural assumption is to be that, oh, these guys are grinding PvP, so they're using characters that can actually be used. Nobody would day in, day out in large amounts use characters that cannot be getting you places in PvP. So what I would like to say is that G4 being a top 3 unit in the PvP seasons, even though he's being pressed hard, is a big attribute to him. It's a big pro for him. You gotta give him his props. Like I said just in the previous hot take before this, people ignore his counter. I'm not even pressing him, talking about his damage is insane, his ultimate is gonna nuke you. It's not nowadays. But his counter is enough to use him. And what I was gonna say at the start of this hot take, when Triku came out with Turlers and that was to counter G4, people don't give a toss. They don't care because G4 is that OP. He's that, bruh. He's that. He's that. He'll go do it himself on feet by himself. So what people were doing, well, they were running Turlers and G4, which is as good as a combination as Turlers and Triku. Obviously, the Turlers and Triku combination is specifically to counter G4. But if you have Turlers, you already have the survivability. But then G4 can do a large amount of damage as long as you're not fighting Triku, is what I find. Which is why his usage was so high, in my opinion. Based on my experiences, I was seeing Turlers and G4 more than Turlers and Triku. Even right now, I see UMV, Turlers and G4 more than Triku could ever show up. So for him being countered day in, day out by these units, he's still being used very, very highly. Maybe my experience is wrong, but I'm saying this is an agreeable take because of my experience. But also I'm trying to use the list as a factor for, it's not just me seeing that, bruh. And people are using G4. And I know it's a popularity contest, but it obviously is BR70 and higher, so he must be doing something. You know, he must be. Using Gogeta Blue. Sorry. Shout out Maddie. I'm not reading that number though. But Maddie, a hot take from him. Fusing Gogeta Blue was a mid-release overall looking back. Good hype and was good in meta, but they aged him out so quickly. Wasted a fusing mechanic on this Gogeta Blue if he was gonna get put out the meta so quick. Now, what I will say about fusing Gogeta Blue, right? He had me in the reveal. I ain't gonna lie, bruh. If you go back to my reaction, the guys that watch me consistently know. They had me. They had me. I saw fusing Super Vegito. I said, we won. I was there like this. I was gassed. I was hyped. Just to find out they're gonna show the best for last. But of course, I'm an objective thinker. Outside of my, obviously I prefer Vegito. So it appears as if I'm not an objective thinker, but I'm an objective thinker, meaning that I'm going to put my bias aside when saying certain things. I said fusing Super Vegito in 7. If you watch the NBA, they have the finals. It can go up to game 7. So meaning when it's tied 3-3, the last game, fusing Super Vegito is going to win. Now, of course, this guy, he had the Strike Assault, and at that time, let's not be clueless and try not act like Ultra Gohan and UUI, because of their mechanics, it was very difficult to get around them. So him having the Strike Assault, people are like, oh my god, it's so much more valuable. But let's not act, I don't know why people are acting like this is more valuable than a timeless mechanic that's been here since day one, bruh. Rise and Rush is that. If you get hit by a Rise and Rush, you gone. If it wanted you out of there, they're gonna get you out of there. And then they just decide to give Vegito the guaranteed win. What were people thinking? Obviously, I was on the right track because I have a brain. But what was people thinking? And I'm not going to lie, at the same time, on the first week, because it's a popularity contest, oh my god, the fusing Gogeta Blues were looking so good. They were looking so powerful. He was tanky once the Striker Assault starts. Oh my god, he was scaring me. I'm not going to lie. But overall, the Rising Rush is timeless. It's actually timeless. Anyways, going forward. It was simply the fact that they didn't make his damage high enough and he doesn't have Covenant. Those were the two biggest flaws. And obviously the Strike Assault chain, it doesn't just happen anytime. You have to start a strike first. And if you've got no Covenant, how are you going to take advantage of the Strike Assault? So overall, he was a mid-release. But because he's new, he was very solid for the first, you know, month. Featured boost being an attribute to that. Featured boost being a big attribute to that. I'm kind of just reminiscing here, but did I say this was like agreeable? I'm gonna say it's agreeable. Overall, looking back at it, man, it was really a hype train. You know, more people summon on fusing Gogeta than Vegito, you know, because Gogeta is that, bro. He's hype. He was #1 most used unit in that first season when they both dropped, but then quickly Vegito stormed him. It was really hype. It was really hype. It was really hype. Hype carried, man. He was actually a mid-release. I hate to say it. He wasn't unusable, but let's not act like he was that, bruh. He was not doing it by himself. He wasn't. He just wasn't. We've got a hot take from Vegito72. Everybody complaining about Fusion Warriors all of a sudden should look back when 3rd Annie didn't provide the bus we needed, 4th Annie was a ghost town, and 5th Annie had the Ultra Headliner be in his other team future over Fusion Warrior. I think it's, you know, is it agreeable for people to complain about Fusion Warriors? I think it is. So the direction this tweet is taking, I'm going to say it's disagreeable, because even though Fusion Warriors as a team is a lot more complete than it's ever been right now, you know, we had Omega with the Indestructible, we've had Super 17, Ultra Vegito Blue running last year, we had G4 this year, fusing Super Vegito and fusing Gogeta Blue, even Gotenks. We've got a lot this year, and just in the past 2 years even. The Fusion Warrior team has only gotten complete now, but that's not what people complain about. As a Fusion Warrior lover, I'm not blinded to the truth. People don't like Fusion Warriors, not because of the team, but it's because it's always a Fusion Warrior in the hype period, you know? It's not the simple fact that the team is always stocked, because it's not. It hasn't been. I've done analysis on it, and Fusion Warriors hasn't been a complete team for a long time until this year. It's mainly the fact that we just get a Fusion Warrior. Every anniversary, you know it's going to be a Fusion Warrior. So if you like other things, you're going to have to sit through the most fruitful period of the year to just not get something that you're hyped for. And I can see that for some people. That's why there's people that complain. So I see the direction you're thinking about the team, but it's really the unit that bothers people more than anything else when it comes to the tag. If it's G4 in the third Annie, it's because it was G4, and they even dropped Corrupt as a Master Who's a Fusion Warrior, but back then teams were different, no leader slot, you know. In the festivals, we'll get a Gogeta Blue. In the Annie, we'll get a Super Vegito Blue. It's the same thing in and out, and that's what people complain about. Me personally, I see a Fusion Warrior. me personally, I don't give a toss. But I know why people are upset. Like, let's not act like it's not that people don't care about the tag that much. They just don't want to summon for Fusion Warrior again. That's why people complain. So I'm gonna say this is it's disagreeable, but you didn't really phrase it in a way that I could disagree. But I know what you're trying to say, which is why I'm disagreeing. Take from Godslayer Mask 66, the most cancerous combo of the year. Disagreeable, disagreeable straight away. Simply because Super 17 and Ultra Gohan exist. Simply because Super 17 and Ultra UI exist. Simply because Ultra Golden Frieza and Ultra Gohan exist. I don't even think this is worse, because there's so many more units to fight against this as well. I don't even think this is worse than just Ultimate Gohan and Evil Majin Buu. That's a hot take. But obviously, let's not forget Satan's greatest soldier, Super 17. Any combination of him in his prime is that, bruh. Super 17 Red Cell, and you put on an Ultra on the leader slot. Ultra UI or Ultra Gohan. Magnificent. Magnificent, man. It's actually unbeatable combination. He was actually that terrorist, bruh. This is obviously recent, so it's feeling like pressure, but you had to be there. You had to really be knees deep in the trenches. Without Super 17, if you didn't have maybe Ultra Gohan, Ultra UI, even if you had them, it was that stress. He's going to take you out in 4 blast starts, and you're not healing as well. Cold, man. That's distress. That's distress. Ultra Vegito Blue and Ultra UI have better reveal than UG4. Not UUI. And because you use the and, I have to disagree. I have to disagree. Specifically because you used UUI and the connective and, I can't agree, because UUI got leaked. So his reveal energy in general was just bad. If you want to objectively just analyze the reveal, I would still disagree, you know. I would still disagree. I think they did short and sweet for UG4. UVB is the best thing we've had in ever. UVB's reveal is the best thing ever, and that's not just because I'm a Vegito fan. Earlier I was saying I'm an objective thinker. I think for the way they upped the scale for the first time for Ultra Vegito Blue, if they did anything similar to that afterwards, it's not going to be better because our expectation is that. So for the first time where they've done something that major, Vegito Blue got it, you know, and it was actually really good. Like it wasn't a orchestra, I think. It wasn't orchestra, sorry, but it was a light show in addition. So yeah, but because you use the word and, I have to disagree. And makes it so that it has to be both. What we learn in computer science, it's the and means both needs to be accepted before this can be a correct output, and because of that I have to disagree. Not UUI, I won't be taking that one. We got a take here from JB_lol_YT. Comeback and lock-in units makes games the most unfun. Now this is going to be very subjective, so I'm going to speak from my personal experience, and I'm also going to talk about the other side, which would be the opposite of my experience. I'm going to agree with this. I think it's the least fun you can have. We're playing Dragon Ball Legends, right? And we're trying to have fights. You're trying to have fights, not chess plays. We're trying to have fights. This is meant to be live action, not super fast paced, but fast enough pace for you to enjoy the game. When you have to fight a comeback unit, so I'm just gonna put survivability in that whole basket, right? But endurance you can get over very easily, but comeback and revival specifically, they stop the game. When you have to deal with a unit like that, I didn't sign up to play Elden Ring, where something's gonna just consistently different waves of health bars and things like that. I'm not trying to play a Dark Souls game, you know. I take you out down my whole cycle, my psychology, My psychology. Wait, now I can't say the word. I said it bad twice on purpose, but now I can't say it. Psychology. Flip's sake, man. Yeah, it's my whole cycle is gone. Like, I'm like, oh man, now I have to beat you again. And then specifically with Turlers, when you have to switch out, and if you're 1v1, oh, nah, I just have to get hit. It's like, bro, like, that's so annoying. I think in general, it doesn't feel good. And then with lock-ins, if you know you're going to get locked in any standard. But I'm going to say mainly when it comes to ultimates or lock-ins like that are conditional to something. So not like an explosive green, not like a counter like G4. I'm also talking from immediate ultimate or like maybe after timer counts or like health going down and you can't do anything to get out of it. I'll even put explosive greens in there because sometimes you can't get out of those. Basically something that doesn't give you a chance to beat it. It's like, bro, you're just stuck there, you know? It's like you're just waiting for your time to come. It's like you might as well play a turn-based game. And that's not what I signed up for. Now, on the opposite end, people would disagree because they feel like if you're getting one-shotted by a fast-paced nuke machine, it's way worse, you know? And those can also be unfun. The way this hot take is what he said, most unfun. So, yeah, I'm not going to say both two things can be true. But normally two things will be true. But I could also see that perspective where you don't want to get one-shotted, you know? But for me personally, this is so agreeable, man. I think it's the worst thing in the game. Like the morale drop when I realize I have to beat you again when I just smacked you up. It's like, bro, just stay down. We got a take here from Alien X, Emmanuel. There's no L. Monthly LFs are gonna burn Legends out quicker than they're expecting and need to go back to normalizing normal sparkings like the transforming green Goku Black who was #1 till Legends Fest. I disagree, but I have an explanation to follow. I think this is disagreeable. I'm gonna say this is disagreeable because you don't know what they have in their locker and they have so many variations. Legends releases units in ways where they can store so many variations of that same unit. You know how many Namek Gokus they can drop, how many G4s, how many Super Vegetos they can drop? They've got a big stock and we've already seen they can also add custom animations, so it's not like they're gonna burn out. It's just deciding what they want to release for that year. So burnout is already disagreeable in my opinion. But what I will say is, if they wanted to normalize 1% sparkings, it would be bad for the game for multiple reasons. For one, they would lose out on money in a sense because they'd be devaluing their biggest asset, and no smart company should do that. I think it would be more beneficial for the game's health if they did do that, but then they would have to drop a lot of 1% sparking banners until like Ultras and Legends Limiteds basically fade out a little bit. They'd have to drop them consistently, and that would devalue Ultras and Legends Limiteds because 1% sparkings are now just better than Ultras. And I don't even like 1% sparking banners, to be honest, but I do like that they are increasing the kit value of 1% sparking. Look at Rage Shenron, look at Evil Margin Boo, Shin. You know, they've been doing good with that, so I can respect them for that. But overall, do I think that they should? No, because it would be bad for the game in the long run. You gotta look at the other end. If all my Ultras are getting cooked by 1% sparkings that are not even Legend Limited or Legendary Finish, they don't have anything, I'm going to be fuming. Because for the past couple years, I've been targeting these Ultras that are meant to be the most valuable just for them to get shat on by a crappy 1% sparking that's going to appear on a Master Pack banner in the next 2 years. What? Nah, man. Overall, you could have let that slide, but I could see the intention here. I think how they need to go about it is to just keep making the 1% on Legend Limited banners better, or if anything, drop 1% on Ultra banners in addition. So then they're just pumping out more units to have more variety in the game. But going about it, because they're gonna burn out, they're definitely not gonna burn out. They got stuff in the back end, so they're good in that. And it would also just devalue the most valuable things. But I think for the game's meta health, it's super good for them to do that. They also need to go back to making free-to-plays good. They need to make free-to-plays genuinely good, because I feel like they just pump them out just to have like boost characters for events. They need to actually make free-to-plays something like the yellow Super Saiyan Trunks, or like Goku Youth when he's Zenkai'd. They need to make some free-to-plays actually good. Free-to-play 18 was, she was doing a role, but they could be a lot better, you know? That's going to be it for this hot take video. Let me know which one you thought was the best, which one you thought was the worst. In my opinion, I said I like the Super Baby 2 one. But yeah, don't forget that like goal on this video, man. Let's try get to 600 likes. Last time, the last video, we got to 500, and I know you guys can do it. So support the channel, as I'm going to be putting out more discussion videos coming soon. But if you haven't already, make sure to press that subscribe button. We're on this grind to 100,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching, man. My name is Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.